selection process without appointment being given therein stands on a different footing than a selection process where appointments had been granted. In the second category, courts must shift the grace from the shaft if possible. In the event it is impossible or highly improbable to shift the grain from the shaft, then the court may venture to cancel the entire selection process. Prior to embarking upon such an exercise, it must be satisfied that the selection process was tainted on the basis of cogent materials. There must be sufficient materials gathered through a thorough investigation that there has been illegalities in the selection process. The appointees had benefited out of the illegalities and were a part of it, and that the appointments made were contrary to law. In respect of the four categories of the selection process involved, written examination has been held. Written examination was in the form of OMR sheets. Original OMR sheets have been destroyed by SSC. Mirror image of the destroyed OMR sheets was required to have been preserved by SSC. CBI had seized the server of the SSC and did not find mirror image of such OMR sheets in the server of SSC.
This is factually correct.
Factually correct.
This is factually correct.
Mirror image. Yes.
Was mirror images of the OMR sheet preserved by the SSC?
Not preserved and not required.
1 minute. That's the second argument, but they were not preserved.
SSC is an authority within the meaning of Article 12 of the Constitution and have been enjoined with the task of undertaking the selection process. Last report of the CBI has stated that SSC appointed Messrs. NISA for the purpose of scanning and evaluation the OMR sheets. Messrs. NISA had engaged another organization, Data Scantech, to do so. It is unclear as to whether the new agency had merely scanned the OMR sheets or was instrumental in evaluating the same also or not. Chairman of the SSC, in response to a query, the court has stated that he was not aware of the engagement of Data Scantech in the selection process, and that in fact he became aware of such name only from the court for the first time. No material has been disclosed as to who authorized Mrs. NISA to engage Data Scantech or that such instrumentality was lawfully engaged by SSC.
So what is being held is this, factually, that SSC did not keep a mirror image with them of the OMR sheets. They had engaged NISA to undertake the evaluation of the OMR sheets, and NISA in fact gave it to
Data Scantech.
They also did not do it.
Yes.
The three discs which were recovered are from NISA or from Data Scantech? From Data Scantech.
NISA.
From NISA. NISA must have got that data from Data Scantech because they did it.
No, NISA took the data in its computer, then NISA must have given the copy to them.
Correct. So 1 minute please. So the data scanning or the OMR sheet scanning is done by Data Scantech as per you. As per
the finding, yes.
As per the finding given. And that data was then, or the hard disk with regard to that were given to NISA because NISA is authorized by the SSC to undertake that. Yes, please.
Significantly, it is the claim of SSC that scanning of the OMR sheets had taken place at its office. If that be so, then SSC had knowingly allowed another organization to scan the OMR sheets, namely Data Scantech, who was not authorized at all. These raise questions as to the integrity, sanctity, and validity of the entire selection process, and giving to the root of the selection process, the evaluator of the selection process had been selected through a process which at best shrouded in mystery, if not downright illegal. Then the conduct of the evaluator is such that it affects the validity of the process of evaluation itself. Significantly, Mrs. NISA had been appointed without an open tender. SSC had selected Mrs. NISA ostensibly on the ground of its being the lowest tenderer from amongst a chosen few who were asked to participate. The parameters qualification required to participate remains undisclosed despite requests being made in court to SSC. No explanation has been provided by SSC in course of hearing as to how and why such a course of action had been undertaken in identifying the instrumentality who was to scan and evaluate the OMR sheets. Documents that have been made available on record does not suggest that competency, efficiency, and whether Mrs. Naisa has the requisite expertise to undertake such exercise was not considered by SSC at all. Letter of appointment of Mrs. Naisa contains only 2 lines which requires Mrs. Naisa to scan and evaluate the OMR sheets. No other terms and conditions of appointment have been specified. The appointment letter has been received by the one employee of Mrs. Naisa from the office of SSC. SSC had destroyed the original OMR sheets ostensibly by keeping a mirror image thereof in the server. CBI did not find those mirror images in the server of SSC.
Did the SSC at any time say that they had retained the mirror images?
No,
They never said that.
they never said that.
Under the rules, are they required to maintain?
No.
They are not. But isn't it obvious they should be maintaining that?
Because
1 minute, Mr. Dwivedi, that's a question. Should be asked.
so the pilot.
1 minute. That's a question because you are also supporting that it's possible to decipher tainted from untainted. You see, the original paper is the OMR sheet. That's a fact. That's a primary evidence.
Yes.
If any manipulation is done on the main evidence or main paper, it will be only visible in the OMR sheet. OMR sheets normally we have pencil marking, if I'm not mistaken, or pen marking.
Yes. Yeah. Ball pen.
Ball pen. Now what happens is there are cases in which people don't fill up the full question paper. They don't give all answers. So they have possibility of putting those pen marks. You fill up the holes, you block the holes. Or that's a possibility which happens. There's also a possibility of changing the OMR sheet. I don't know whether each OMR sheet had a number. You don't even know that. Was it numbered or not numbered?
So that's not been a matter of inquiry.
No. 1 minute, please. We don't even know how did the checking take place, whether the name of the candidate was camouflaged and the top portion was erased and given for when it was done for checking. Normally checking is very simple. You just scan it through the computer and they, with your question answer sheet, and it scans very fast. Doesn't require, it's AI, completely AI. It's not human driven. There's no human checking, except when you want to check. Sometimes what happens is smooth mark 2. They get mark 2 also, or sometimes you find it's difficult whether it's been marked or not marked. Some hole, the marking by pen is there or not there. The issue would be because the originals are not available. So there is no way we can authenticate whether the original OMR sheets were identical to the scanned OMR sheets which are available on the server.
So the entire inquiry has.
But then how do you, if this is the position, then what is the fault in the finding of the High Court?
No, the submission is this, Manoj, that High Court proceeds on the authenticity and legality and validity of the OMR sheets.
No, they do not. Please understand one thing.
So that's how Manoj,
No, Mr. Dwivedi, that's not. That's why I said there's a difference between 65B certificate. 65B certificate only says that the hard copies which have been downloaded or which are downloaded are the copies, is the copy of the.
No, I'm not on 65. I'm not on 65B.
But it will not prove that what is scanned and stored in the hard disk is the original of the OMR sheet.
But that's how the High Court proceeds. High Court takes the OMR sheet and gives it to the SSC and find out on the basis of comparison. Because the marks obtained by the candidate selected and appointed are known. Now, based on the OMR, High Court finds out that a person who got zero to the OMR sheet recovered has got higher marks. So that's how they say that marks have been interpolated for that candidate.
Okay.
So the basis of the entire...
We put that question. Let's see what answer we get.
Yes. My respectful submission is that the basis...
Okay, let's read further from 325.
Yes.
The SSC destroyed the original OMR sheet.
OMR sheets ostensibly by keeping mirror image thereof in its server. CBI did not find those mirror images in the server of SSC. These facts have been effectively ruled out, an exercise of shifting the grains from the chaff. The non-cooperative stand of the SSC state and the board had added to the burden. The entire selection process is rooted in such mystery and in such layers that it is difficult to fathom the quantum of illegalities performed. That illegalities had vitiated the selection process of Mrs. Naisa stands established. We have discussed the illegalities so far discovered vitiating the selection process in course of our discussions herein and will tabulate the same hereafter. The plausible inference from the materials made available on record and the conduct of the relevant party is that the entire machinery was devised for the purpose of effectuating a scam which will be hard to discover and even if discovered difficult to prove. Appointment of Mrs. Naisa, destruction of original OMR and non-availability are some of the crucial points in the fraud that came to be perpetuated. Now this finding with great respect, after 2 years and 3 years if the petitions are filed and the rule doesn't require beyond 1 year. So there is no requirement that it should be preserved beyond that point of time. And that is taken as a basic factor of holding as fraud. As noted above, in the course of hearing all these matters, SSC, state and board have perseveringly non-cooperated so that even the possibility of trying to separate the grades could be rendered nugatory. What has been produced by the selection process is not a cereal comprising of grains and chaff capable of segregation, but a product unfit for human consumption. Fraud perpetrated is deep and pervasive. Any attempt to shift the proverbial grain from the chaff would be an unprofitable exercise prolonging the agony and would put premium on dishonesty. Now, based on CBI, the report, the whole thing is proceeding and CBI has pointed out each and every candidate on what respects, on what grounds his appointment is vitiated. In the facts of the present case, blank OMR sheets have been submitted and such candidates have been shown to have scored sufficiently higher numbers so as to be recommended for appointment.
Is this factually correct? 29.
No, some people who have been appointed...
No, I'm not on that. Is it factually correct that there were some blank OMR sheets and these were shown to have, the candidates were shown to have secured higher marks?
This is not correct, but what has happened is that marks have been increased.
Marks have been increased by
Somebody who got zero.
one. The OMR sheets on correction, on checking were found to have X marks, which was say 50, but the marks which are
Marks in the select list are higher.
But it is not that blank OMR sheets were...
Nobody, even CBI doesn't report this.
Okay.
There's no basis for this. The exact nature of candidates fraudulently given the appointments cannot be identified, more so in the attitude of non-cooperation. There are other manipulation illegalities in the selection process which has come to light. Again, exact number of persons who have benefited out of such manipulation illegalities in the selection process cannot be identified in its entirety. Some have been identified. Identification of some is such that in respect of Group D, 48% has been found to be obtained by manipulation illegalities. The percentages of manipulated illegal appointments across the other three categories are on a reducing scale compared to Group D, but nonetheless sufficiently significant to question the validity of the entire process.
Just we pause here for a little minute. Now come to the order of 7/5/2024.
Yes.
The table at page 13. Paragraph 13 and 14.
Para 13 at page 11 was, or the quoted para 13?
Yes, we can go to the table itself.
From the
Sorry, not paragraph 13, 16 and 17.
yeah.
14.
Paragraph 16.
Yes, we can, paragraph 16 and 17.
17 as the
On 15.
On comparison, just 1 minute. Paragraph 12, which is quoted there in italics, from the
On
CBI
a comparison of these actual genuine OMR marks with the OMR marks available in the wbsscnews server shows that there is manipulation.
1 minute now. What do you mean by this? On the comparison of the actual genuine OMR marks available
He is referring to not to the OMR sheets recovered from NISA.
recovered from data.
Yes.
Not NISA, recovered from data.
Yes.
But available
The
with NISA.
former employee of NISA who was at that relevant time an employee.
Okay, fine. Then the
That's
marks
the basis.
available on the WB.
The select list where the marks are contained. So they are trying to say that marks in some of the candidates are
About
manipulated
700,
and shown higher.
they were shown higher.
Yes. And how many are there? 952 number of candidates of 9 and 10, 907 candidates of so-and-so, 3481 of group C, 2823 of group D. So there is a complete identification by CBI.
That's, we are aware of it. We are not.
That during the course of investigation, several emails were found to have been exchanged between the accused officials of the commission, certain private persons and officials of NISA. These emails contain lists of candidates whose OMR marks were found to be increased in the server of the commission. So the emails are there to corroborate that who are those candidates. Besides this, emails have been exchanged between staff and NISA themselves containing manipulated data of candidates. This shows complicity. The above investigation by the CBI indicates that it has found a manipulation in respect of 952 candidates for the selection process of assistant teachers for class 9 and 10. In the case of 907 candidates for class 11, 12, 3481 candidates for group C and 2823 candidates for group D. Apart from the above report of CBI, the impugned judgment of the High Court contained in para 240 a reference to the fact that SSC had submitted statistical report of the 4 selection processes tabulating the alleged irregularities. The tabulation is produced below for the convenience of reference. So, 2 authorities both have been, and they have made the basis.
That's one. The figures given in this table,
Yes. For
as per
assistant
the
teachers 9 and 10.
as per the SEC itself, where there were irregularities committed, are different from the table given by the CBI.
So CBI found
One
more.
minute, 1 minute. So the CBI says is where OMR sheets available, OMR marks available in the OMR sheets, vis-a-vis the marks which were available on the wbsscnews server. The manipulation was in 752 candidates,
Yes.
907 candidates, 3481 candidates,
Yes.
and 2823. And if you turn to the list which is given by the SSC, where they say that there were irregularities noticed in tabulation,
Yes.
there is a OMR issue in 808. I don't know what is the OMR issue.
OMR issue is where the OMR marks and the actual marks in the Pankaj Bansal's 3 lists are not tallied.
Okay. Then there is 771, 783 and 1741, whereas the details given in the CBI are much higher.
That there are small differences, we have reconciled it subsequently.
There's
More or less same will come if all the 3.
that table doesn't tally. This one which are found by the CBI, they don't tally with the OMR issue. Then there's a rank jumping, and then there's alleged irregularity. What do you mean by alleged irregularity?
That's the sum. OMR plus rank jump.
That's the sum total of the two.
Yes.
Yes.
Next file is
Yes,
what?
it can be.
2 minutes.
Excess
It's the
appoint.
same.
Okay, okay, fine. And then there is the case where additional or excess appointments have been made.
Yes.
Irrespective of the marks obtained.
Who are beyond the list.
Beyond.
So what I am trying to respectfully submit, Lord, that the two authorities have been able to identify.
Now, the factual situation as it is emerging is this. SSC did not maintain the mirror image. Then the original OMR sheets are not available. The only evidence with regard to the OMR sheets which are available is in form of scanned OMR sheets which was done by data and then given to NASA.